My name is FC Zuke. I'm an artist working in video, sound, interactivity, computer programming, and installation. So the title of the exhibition is Between Gods and Dogs. The exhibition is largely about confusing hierarchies of knowledge and power. The two works do not stand at odds with one another, but they create this environment where they are in conversation with one another. And so the exhibition as a whole is sort of a space to consider our sources of knowledge and belief and power. The word that binds them began by selecting books that had been treated as objects of authority by different academic, political, and religious institutions. So it's an interactive work, and there's different ways that people can interact with it. On one hand, they can open and close each book. When audience members open the book, voices begin speaking from inside the book, and these voices move up and down several loudspeakers that are suspended from the ceiling. And the voices belong to individuals who have a certain level of authority in promoting each book's teachings. So there's voices of priests and rabbis and the authors themselves. Audience members can also scroll through the dictionary and submit a word into the dictionary. And when they do, the purple light is extinguished and a box with a flame inside is pulled to the ceiling. And as that happens, hundreds of voices swell to a cacophony. A bright light turns on, and printers, which are hidden at the top of the gallery, drop pages that contain passages from the books. And those passages contain the word power and whatever word the participant enters into the dictionary. Research is a major component of my practice, and a lot of times I try to find ways to connect ideas or concepts that might seem at odds with one another. When I began this work, I made an effort to see what commonalities there were between the texts, and I basically conducted word frequency counts for hundreds of words. And after doing that, I realized that there was only one word that appeared more than, I think, 30 times in each book, and that was the word power. So I then extracted the word power from every book and was left with over 3,000 sentences and phrases and passages that had the word power in them. In the installation, viewers don't know the source from which each passage comes. And so by sort of removing these quotations from their sources, viewers are left to navigate the text and to explore these ideas without the usual cultural or ideological presuppositions. And I think art is a really special place to ask questions we don't often get to ask. What happens when we are confronted with ideas from some of humanity's most famous books without knowing the sources to which they belong? Viewers can construct their own meanings, but they can also question the source from which it comes, what those passages mean in a larger context, and the political or historical situation that gave rise to those passages. Interactivity is important in my work because it gives some agency to the viewer, and it changes their place from being someone who is there to observe to being an active member in something that reacts to their actions. And I find that to be empowering for the viewer at times, but I also find that it creates possibilities for discovery and play, and lets the viewer or the listener or the participant find their own meaning in the work to them as individuals. Sometime during the course of making The Word That Binds Them, I realized that I was putting all of these political and religious and academic ideologies on this grand stage. There was tension created between each of them, but they weren't really being challenged or put in conversation with other forms of belief or knowledge or power. At some point in college, I realized that there was things that I learned from my dog that were just as or more important than the things that I was learning from academia and from books. Lessons on responsibility, care, freedom, time, aging. Most Retrieved Words positions dogs as valid sources of belief and knowledge and power. I'm interested in art that is completed or fueled by audience participation. And sometimes that participation occurs in the gallery during an installation, and sometimes it occurs sort of as the research or as the data that informs the work. And so in the case of Most Retrieved Words, I requested sounds of people's dogs barking and responses to a question about what they had learned from their dogs. And I think it makes the work less about me and more about multitudes of people. So Most Retrieved Words is an audio-visual installation. In the exhibition Between Gods and Dogs, it appeared as a 4-channel video that spanned 2 walls of the gallery. The visuals are made up of thousands of dogs that are running together along the walls of the gallery. And they appear as sort of ghostly electric figures. And so that ghostly nature partly speaks to the memories of our canine companions, but it also sort of speaks to the timelessness of human-dog relationships. Each canine figure that appears in the video was extracted from found footage. So I spent about 3 months collecting found footage and going frame by frame using this technique known as rotoscoping to extract dogs that were running left to right or right to left across the screen, and then compositing all of them together into one video. A lot of the videos that I collected were gathered from platforms such as YouTube, and so the sort of slogan of YouTube is broadcast yourself. And so most of the videos that I collected were of dog owners who were sort of broadcasting the lives of their dogs. And so in that way, I'm sort of tapping into this desire to immortalize our dogs through the video medium. So the audio in Most Retrieved Words is made up of 300 dog sounds that were collected from the general public. I analyzed the gallery space for reverberation times, which basically means I determined how long certain frequencies lingered in the gallery before they dissipated. And then I altered the sounds so that it essentially turns the gallery into a space that ends up sounding like a Gothic cathedral or some sort of sacred architecture. So in that way, the gallery almost becomes a sacred choral music space, and the dogs take on the role of performers of sacred choral music. I ended up with over 2,000 responses to the question, what have you learned from your dog? And after I had collected all of those responses, I analyzed them for the most frequently appearing words. And so I was left with a list of 250 of the most commonly used words that the general public used in describing what they had learned from their dogs. And so that is sort of where the title comes from. Those are the most retrieved words. In the exhibition, there is a small bench that is located at the end of the video projections, so sort of where the dogs make their exit in the corner of the gallery. And that list of 250 words is placed on a bench. And as visitors sit in that location, they also sort of become the destination of all of those dogs. So as I said, research is a significant component of my work. And one of the more compelling bits of literature that I encountered during my final year here at KU was a writing by a scholar at the University of Hawaii named Vrinda Dalmia. She proposes that care could be a form of intelligence, so that the psychological predisposition to care actually serves to make us more intelligent about something. I found her writings to connect to my exhibition because if most retrieved words is proof that people have learned something from their dogs, and if it required those dog owners to care about their dogs, then it sort of proves that by caring, you can learn something and become more intelligent. Foucault says that knowledge implies power. So if knowledge implies power, and if we can learn things and become knowledgeable by caring, then perhaps this exhibition suggests that the act of caring makes us more powerful.